Lovely.
Fleming? Fleming, old fellow, how are you? College closed. Fleming, I say rouse yourself, sir.
Something tells me that he's been drinking.
This won't do, Watson. He requires some hair from the dog that bit him.
It must have been a huge dog. Shall I check his pulse?
No need. Collect a couple of bottles of strong ale from the public house we passed, will you? Mind it's not small beer.
Some porter for the porter. Sorry, Holmes.
Excuse me. Holmes will be gone for a couple of minutes, so it's a chance to look around. Okay, that was quicker than what I expected.
Will you have a drink, Fleming? Never while on duty, sir. Now, please move along. You're trespassing on college grounds. Would you oblige us, Fleming, with your opinion? We're evaluating this ale. Happy to assist young gentlemen in the pursuit of knowledge. So for science, as you might say.
Yes, science.
Excellent. I recognise you, don't I? I'm pleased to think you might. I'm Sherlock Holmes. Of course you are. Never forget a face, Mr. Holmes. Just takes me a bit longer to focus. You're keeping well? Haven't gained a stone since you went down. I read your exploits in Beaton's. And this is Dr. Watson, is it? Pleased, I'm sure.
I've never seen anyone look as happy as he did after he drunk that ale. Oh yeah, and it turns out there is actually a train line from Liverpool Street Station to Cambridge, at least in the modern era. I'm not exactly sure back in the Victorian times.
Even after all these years, my recollections of this place are so vivid. Is that unusual, Fleming? Not at all, sir. We are what we remember. As the bard says, even purpose is but a slave to memory. I need to excavate your prodigious memory, Fleming. May I do that? I enjoy a good mystery. Dig away, sir. I saw a tattoo on a corpse. Something about it reminded me of Cambridge. A view of Trumpington Street. Nothing so definitive. It's a neatly rendered blooming rose. You're familiar with such a figure? If it was engraved on the subject's backside, it might be the badge of the Tudor Rose. The Arcane Social Club? Of course. The symbol of England was their sign. I had no idea those rare birds marked themselves. Since your time, sir. Been a drinking club for more than a decade, carousing and such. Nothing much secret about it. Old boys are ashamed to be associated with the newer members. University may revoke their charter, is what I heard. Is the artist a local man? Jack Canvas in Cheapside designed the tattoo version from an old print drawing. I'm told he recently passed over. Yes, I should have recognized his hand. But my brain was fixed on the subject matter. The delicate petals set along the brambles and the thorns. Unexpectedly lovely. I've seen the painting, of course. As a symbol, the old boys was thinking they were England's best. Some of them proved it, but their successors took to advertising, trying to convince themselves, perhaps. True quality never commends itself, Mr. Holmes. The Tudor Rose drew its members from the whole university, didn't it? Indeed. Over the years, there's been hundreds of initiates. Do you remember all the Magdalen men? Their names run together now, but I do recognize most of them. Regrettably, I don't have a name or a face. What are these photographs, Fleming? Young gentlemen of Magdalen, Mr. Holmes. I keep the most recent classes on display. Their families seem to enjoy it. I have reason to believe my corpse was a Magdalen man and a member of the Tudor Rose. If he came here after 1860, I may have him in my albums. Could we look through your portraits of the previous classes? But that's thousands of young gentlemen, Mr. Holmes. 100 or more would have joined the Tudor Rose. Would the date of a student's matriculation narrow the field sufficiently? It might. My memory's good, but not flawless. And some of these characters were more memorable than others. I believe this boy turned 19 in June of 1874 and came to college for the Michaelmas term that year. Let me check my photographs. Ah, yes, 1874. A rum class. Bright, no question. But rum. Anybody there who later joined the Tudor Rose? Let's see. There's Dundalk, the Earl's youngest boy. Died in the Transvaal, I heard. And Lawton is a lord since his pater passed on. An MP, I believe. Oh, yes. His special friend was Pratt. An orphan came to us from India. Strange boy. Don't know what became of him. And Cunard is making his fortune in Australia. That's all, I think. Thank you, Fleming. Very helpful. A pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure to see one of my young gentlemen.
So that confirms that Pratt was the one who was shot in the face twice.
Nothing changes very much in Cambridge, Watson.
I'm sure the pace of change is slow, but the aura of immutability is perpetrated by porters and dons. They are eternal. Everyone else is transient. They have an interest in perpetuating the illusion, and your frozen memory assists them.
It was merely an observation, Watson. Excuse me. Pratt and Lawton together. This is too terrible to be a coincidence, Watson. Our corpse is the ex-Thomas Pratt. I'm certain of it.
If you say so, Holmes. I'm a bit baffled.
Cambridge can reveal no more about the present case. We can just make the next train to London. I wish to see Pratt's effects, and then we'll carry the bad news to Lord Lawton. We've just time to catch the next train to London.
Excellent. Let's be off.
I'm afraid I carry some deplorable news. Mr. Pratt has been murdered.
How extremely vexing. I wonder if he remembered me in his will. He's 6 months behind in the rent.
You'll have to absorb that cost. He's paid a higher price.
This is very inconvenient. Mr. Mason always said I was too kind for this world.
I'm sure he was a flawless judge of character.
Something tells me that she's not getting her rent. But maybe she can sell some of these paintings. And some more of his personal effects. I mean, this chaise lounge should be worth a pretty penny.
Might we look at Mr. Pratt's effects? It can make no difference to the deceased.
As you're not the police, I think not. Even the defunct have some right to privacy. There may be personal items about.
Of a marketable nature, perhaps? Are you familiar with any of Mr. Pratt's haunts, clubs, saloon bars, salons, and such?
No. His leisure activities are a mystery to me. There was his painting, of course.
The flat lacks its own bathtub. Where did he perform his weekly ablutions?
He had rights to one in the basement, but he preferred Neville's in Charing Cross. No doubt a reprobate's delight. All manner of dissipation and depravity are likely to be served with soap and water.
I'm unfamiliar with that particular pleasure palace. Could you identify Pratt for the police if requested?
I should think so. He lived here for more than 3 years. I know his face as my own.
But could you recognize him without reference to his face?
No. But why would I be asked to do that?
I wasn't expecting that question.
Do you know anything about Pratt's years at Cambridge?
Nothing. But he was a university man, that's for certain. I only let rooms to that sort of person.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at the fact that Holmes is wanting Mrs. Mason to identify someone without a face. It was just a bit shocking.
Did Mr. Pratt have any special friends?
Only Mr. Spacemaker. But I haven't seen him in more than a month.
Spacemaker?
Yes, unusual name, isn't it? Peculiar young man. As pretty as any girl.
Do you have a likeness of Mr. Pratt in your flat that we might borrow?
We did not have that kind of relationship, Mr. Holmes.
What kind is that?
You know very well what kind. The kind that exchanges personal photographs. We were not intimate friends. No one could prove that charge.
I perceive you have a question, Watson.
Shouldn't we find out more about this fellow Spacemaker, where he lives and so on? He might be able to help.
Doubtful, Doctor. The name is certainly an alias. The bearer possesses a basic German vocabulary and a rudimentary sense of humor. Anything of material interest here, Doctor? Using my methods, please.
There's a dearth of personal items of any kind. Address book, writing materials, letters, photos, that sort of thing.
Well observed. You've noted what's missing, though one would expect to find more of that sort of thing in the bedroom. Still, this chamber deserves our closest attention. Watson, we need to peruse the flat. Can you occupy Mrs. Mason?
Would you suggest a sharp rap on the head?
Use your imagination and your knowledge of the distaff nature.
This woman confounds my paltry knowledge, Holmes, but appeals to her vanity might not fall on deaf ears.
What do you know of Neville's, Doctor?
An ordinary bath off St. Martin's Place. Depravity, indeed. This woman's an imbecilic prig. I shouldn't wonder if her husband dispatched himself to get clear of her.
Wow. Watson really isn't... I don't know if he's in a bad mood or he just does not like this woman here. First he's talking about rapping her on the head. Now he's blaming her for her husband's suicide?
If I may ask, Mrs. Mason, how did you lose your husband?
He was a cooper plying his trade. Fell into a great barrel of stout and was drowned, poor dear. Clearer proof of alcohol's evils there never was.
I'm sure he thought highly of you and confided in you. Perhaps you have the names of his friends or relations in your flat?
I do not. He was orphaned by the Sepoy Rebellion, and the uncle who raised him has been dead for years. He had no family that I know about. Would the ministry consider paying his back rent, do you think?
Perhaps you would like to freshen up and change your handsome frock.
Oh, why would I ever want to do that?
I'm sure that a chief inspector from the CID will be by directly for a chat. They always interview the most important parties in a murder investigation. You'll need to accompany him to Scotland Yard. There'll be numerous photographers and journalists about. I thought you might like to prepare yourself for the ordeal.
Oh, well, I see. Very thoughtful of you, Mr. Holmes. Oh, being in the public eye is such a trial. Excuse me, gentlemen. Close the door when you leave.
I suspect we'll see no more of her.
Capital, Holmes, capital. The appeal to her vanity was irresistible. It overwhelmed her suspicion that we would make off with Pratt's valuables.
I believe she knows the worth of every item in this flat to the last farthing, and it isn't much. Her exit, like everything she does, is calculated. But let us take advantage of her narcissism. You know my practice, Watson. I'm looking for anything unexpected.
I was going to say something about the Spanish Inquisition, but I better not. Well, I've never actually smelt opium, but it must be strong smelling if it overpowers the smell of paint.
Useful items, hat pins.
I'm sure. This certainly falls under the heading of unexpected.
Okay, let's take a look around his bedroom. Wait, is that Oscar Wilde? Yes, it is. Controversial novels. I wonder. Oh. Well, I'm sure this old collection of porn will be worth some money.
Was Pratt a voluminist?
I sincerely doubt it. Merely economical when it was convenient. But these may be of future interest. Evidently, no establishment is so base that its reputation can't be ameliorated. Perhaps one day I shall make a study of match packet advertisements. Pratt apparently patronized the weary punt more than once.
I'm still amazed that they actually included sound effects for the smelling.
Perfect tool for cleaning the hookah. I suspected this pin never pierced a bonnet or a lady's coiffure. Useful items, hat pins.
I wonder just how useful. Oh, okay. I wonder, I didn't actually look at this seal to see what it actually is. Or is of. Okay. That kind of makes sense. Maybe.
I certainly hope you're not going to collect every piece of paper we come across.
Quite right, Watson. But a recent bill from Neddles and a personal note from the elusive Agnes Ratchet are suggestive.
I think they were almost done here.
I'll just bring this along. Someone may recognize it. May I have your opinion of Pratt's decor, Watson?
Bordellos and counterfeit harems of the world could learn a thing or two here. Did the filing clerk fancy himself a Maharaja?
It's an old story. He was meant to be a potentate, but an accident of birth deprived him of his true destiny. What is the attraction of these devices? Is water-cooled smoke more healthful?
Hardly. One doesn't smoke for one's health. The hookah merely makes for a change. As with all habits, it is subject to abuse.
And how, in your opinion, does an innocuous habit become a vice?
Excess, Holmes, a subject about which you are expert.
Watson really is not pulling his punches today.
You know this odor, Watson, unless I have mistaken your experience.
Opium. The acrid, nearly sickening scent is unmistakable.
The source is obvious. Its significance is less so. The bowl appears clogged with the poppy's viscous residue. Pratt's pecuniary embarrassment went far beyond defaulting on his rent.
Why do you say so?
A heap of overdue bills, requests for credit, all denied, and a record of ill-conceived investments.
He sounds a reckless fool. There, but for the grace of God, any of us might be if we're desperate enough.
Very true, Watson. It would help to know what caused his desperation. Do you recognize this remnant of red cloth?
It looks like a segment of ribbon.
Yes, government issue. The type used to bind official documents. There is no doubt in my mind that Pratt was a principal in the formula's theft. He truly was a fool.
But questions remain, surely. Why would Pratt have stolen it?
Why indeed? And what did he do with it? And where is it now?
And why was he killed?
Fools tend to be foolish more than once. They are as dangerous to their friends as to their enemies. This wax once sealed Dewar's document. I'd bet on it.
Where's the other half?
If I knew, we'd be further along. But you make a nice observation, Watson. It does appear to be nearly a perfect half of the seal. Do you suppose this is a photo of the supposititious spacemaker?
Why do you think the name is intended to deceive?
In life or literature, I'll wager you've never seen it. It's a jest. Spacemaker, or Spaßmacher, means the joker in German.
Would it be interesting to know why an alias was necessary or desirable?
At the least, he wanted to conceal his identity from Mrs. Mason, but the Act of '85 may have been on his mind.
Surely that's pure speculation, Holmes.
Not so speculative, Watson, and hardly pure. People's predilections are their own affair until their criminal actions make them mine. The seal, the ribbon, the paper ash. The evidence is suggestive.
That Pratt destroyed what he stole? Perhaps his nerve failed him, or he repudiated his treachery, but you will say suggestive evidence is not conclusive.
Quite right, Watson. There is a large crime in motion. We must not be distracted by apparent solutions to portions of it. Pratt was murdered for the part he played in the formula's theft. His killer must be sought, but the questions suggested by the theft itself are still more important.
You want to know why the theft was committed and who gained by it if not the thief.
My hat, Doctor. You have been paying attention. Wilde is widely credited with the wittiest riposte of the decade.
Which was?
The justly ignored poet laureate once approached him. "Oscar," he complained, "no one notices my work. There is a conspiracy of silence against me. What shall I do?" Wilde instantly replied, "Join it."
Regrettably, the poet laureate ignored that sound advice.
Okay, I think we are done here. Okay, yep, let's go and see a Neville about his bath.